Hello friends, today I'm going to have one new stationery item to take a look at. I've got a new affiliate link with Popov Leather, and I have done a recent video on their notebook cover, so we'll take a revisit of what I own from them and an affiliate link that you can use to get a discount on their products, and a little bit about my reading routine, which seems to be of some interest to you out there. I have commented that I read a lot of books, and people keep asking me, how do I get so much reading done in a day? So I'll revisit my reading routine with you as well. I was recently at Madison Page having a casual chat with Shelley Bata, the owner of Madison Page, which is a local stationery shop here in Calgary. And I'll be sharing an upcoming video on my quick interview with her. But one of the neat things that happened right after the interview was Shelley and I got to talking, and Shelley is an absolutely incredible database of just really interesting stationery explorations. She and I got to chatting, and I was asking her about what she does for ink swatching, and she pointed me in the direction of this guy, which is the Wearingul color swatch book. I thought we could take a closer look at the desk here of what this notebook entails and why Shelley thought it was really neat and why I gravitated towards it and what I'll be doing for my ink swatching moving forward. I won't do an ink swatching today. We'll just do a quick overview of this guy. Shelley and I got to talking about ink swatching, and we were comparing notes on how we were both doing it, and she was sharing what she was trying out. I have been swatching in a particular way for some time now, which is effectively like this, doing an ink splat, a little bit of a paintbrush sample, and then using a dip pen writing with the ink to get a variation of use of particular or said ink on the page. This is time intensive. It's a lot of fun, but it is time intensive. And so I was just kind of asking Shelley, what she thought of in terms of doing a simple ink swatch. So this is from Wearingul. Wearingul is a Korean fountain pen ink maker. They have some brilliant inks, by the way. I haven't got any myself, but Shelley showed me this and I was absolutely intrigued. This runs for 12 Canadian dollars at the time of this video, and it's 200 gram paper. It's 40 pages, but I'll show you what intrigued me about this. We'll go ahead and just open this up. So it tells you there's 9 ink bottles. So what does that mean? Well, here's the brilliant part. There are 9 ink bottles, drawings of ink bottles. And what you can do is you can swatch each of the ink bottles using a paintbrush or with a dip pen or however you want to do it, and write the name of fountain pen ink underneath. And there are 40 pages of this, one-sided. So I just thought it was a really neat way of doing something simple that has a little bit of character with these fountain pen ink bottles, and also being able to look at similar colors relatively easily. So Shelley told me that she had just started hers. I'm afraid to start mine in full transparency because I don't know how to quite organize it yet. And Shelley was also kind of lamenting about how she was planning to organize hers, even though she had started a couple of ink swatches. And I think the way I'm going to do it is probably divide this book into sections. I'll have a blue section, a green section, a red section, basically sections by color. So I'll save maybe 5 pages for each of the colors that I want to explore, and I'll put all blue inks side by side right here. The other thing that perhaps is giving me a tiny bit of anxiety in terms of how I'm organizing this is what happens if I've got 2 blues that are very similar in colors and I want to compare them, but I pick them up at different times. Well, I don't know if there's anything I can do about that other than try and plan for it. Not that one can necessarily. So I might get 2 teals that are very similar in color, for example. And if I've got a teal here and I fill this up with different other types of blue shades, I've got another teal on the second page, it won't be as easy to obviously compare the two that way. So perhaps I've got to think about this also in terms of the organization from the perspective of shades of color, right? So the teals, turquoises, a dark blue, a lighter blue. Either way, I really like the look of it. I'm not going to do an Inkswatch today, perhaps in a future video. I really like it. And for 12 Canadian dollars, I think that's a really good deal for what you're getting in terms of something that's nice, do something fun like that. I did a video on Popov Leather Notebook Covers earlier on the year, and you can find that video here. The Popov Leather Notebook Covers are beautiful, gorgeous leather notebook covers. And the wonderful thing is they are made in Nelson, BC, a local Canadian company, and I love supporting Canadian companies. Ryan Popov and I got to chatting, and I am proud to say that I have now got an affiliate link for these Popov notebook covers that are available for you guys to use. I'll put the link in the description below, and we'll put it right here. And that link gives you a 20% discount on these notebook covers. I'll jump over to the desk just to do a little bit of a recap on the Popov Leather notebook covers. And if you want more details, again, the video link for the other video is up here. Popov Leather notebook covers. So I've had this for a few months now, and I tend to keep these leather notebook covers on my desk or around my desk. I don't necessarily commute or travel with them. I use my other notebook covers, so my traveler's notebook or my Lockbee to do that. But I love the look of this on my desk. I love the idea that it resides on my desk. This is the A5, and particularly right now what I'm using this for is kind of a brainstorming session for a series of videos that I am planning to either write about or talk about. And so I think the leather is absolutely incredible. It's got a really beautiful finish. This is the English tan, and I talked about this in the other Popov notebook video I did. This is also English tan, so there's a bit of color variation in between the leathers, so keep that in mind. Again, as I said, this is the A5. It's got card slots in here, your A5 that can slot in here, and interlocking pen loops. Love the aesthetic of it, the feel of it, and the fact that it feels so durable. It's got a beautiful weight, and in this case, I've even got my initials engraved onto the notebook cover. The other one that I pulled over, which I'm not using right at this moment, this is the Hobonichi or A6 size of the notebook cover from Popov Leather. 2 card slots, a little bit of an inside sleeve, just like the other one. Dual interlocking pen loops. I know, like I said, I'm not using this right now. This is a Hobonichi Disho that is in here. I have mentioned that I have gravitated away from my Hobonichi, so I don't have a necessary use for the A6 size at the moment. But never say never. I like the A6 size and format. I just don't have any other A6 notebooks other than the Disho right now. This one's really, really good. I like the look of it with the Hobonichi in here. In the A6 version, you don't have to just use a Disho. There are other A6 notebooks out there. I think it's a really nice, I really like the A6 size and form here. I think this is very good stitching. It gives you a little bit, how they did this design is to effectively stitch a flap over and gives you that sleeve there. And it's a solid leather notebook. It's aging very well. I've had these both for 6 months now, and I think they're fantastic. If you want to buy these notebook covers, again, use the affiliate link. That'll give you a 20% discount. And it also, if you're Canadian, helps you support an amazing Canadian business. And if you're in the States or anywhere else in the world, they do ship there. The other thing I should mention is you can use that affiliate link for other things, not just notebook covers. Their website has lots of leather goods, belts, dock kits, hats, tote bags, and they've got a few new products that they're also planning to release, one of them being a B5, or I think it's actually, a B6 notebook cover as well. So there are growing options within their catalog. There's a ton of stuff outside notebook covers. In one of my recent vlog videos or from the desk videos here, I talked about some of the books that I was reading at the time and I had picked up. One of the interesting things that I got a lot of emails about was the fact that I mentioned 4 or 5 books that I was reading at the same time, which seems to be an area of interest for some of you. And one of the consistent questions that I got in these emails was, how do I read these 5 books? Why do I read these 5 books, or multiple books, I should say, in a day? And how do I have the ability to get so much reading done? Well, this overlaps with another area of interest for the audience out there, which is my 4 a.m. routine. I will do a little bit of a detailed breakdown of what my 4 a.m. routine is. I talked about it in the previous video with respect to why I do it, but perhaps I can also show you in an upcoming video what visually my 4 a.m. routine looks like. So I will do that. But going back to my reading routine, so I have a mix of nonfiction books and fiction books that I like to partake in. And obviously I love reading by the very mention of the fact that I just love to talk about books and the books that I am reading at this point. So what does my reading structure routine look like, and how do I get multiple books done at the same time? Well, I should caveat this. This is not for everybody. Some people like to make sure that they only have 1, maybe 2 books going at the same time. And others, maybe like me, love to have multiple books going on at the same time. The reason I do it is because I love to read so much, I also have a diverse area of interest that I want to explore. And given my quite busy schedule, I try to pack in as much as possible, but not have it feel like it's an obligation or a burden to do all this reading. I do have a lot of other things that I do in my day-to-day, including during the work week, a full-time day job that can run into longer hours at times. So the key time for me to get most, or a good chunk of a reading sprint is what I'm going to call it, is right in the morning. I wake up at 4 a.m. I've talked about a little bit about this in a high-level routine type of thing, and like I said, I will do a little bit more of a visual breakdown. But I typically reserve about a half hour to 45 minutes, depending on how the morning is going, to just reading. And the first thing I read in the morning is nonfiction, and it's a particular type of nonfiction. It's going to be gravitating towards something like poetry, which is meant to be inspirational, or something like one of the recent books that I'm reading, which is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, or How Not to Worry. So these are strategies in terms of the first thing that I do when I read in the morning is to help me orient my goals or intentions for the day. The poetry is meant to inspire, but it's also meant to give me a bit of a theme to focus in on for the day, or to help resolve some aspects that I might be ruminating on. And I should mention, I typically read right after meditation or shortly after I meditate. And my meditation sessions are anywhere between 20 minutes typically on the work days to 45 minutes on the weekends, when I have a bit more flexibility of what happens after 7:30. And so the first thing I tend to read is really meant to be inspirational, grounding, and giving me some intention. So one of the books that I mentioned recently that I was reading is How to Win Friends and Influence People and How Not to Worry. But the other one is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, which is very much a book about looking at anxiety, looking at fear, and giving us some strategies to help us orient or centralize a theme on. So that's what I do with that morning reading session, is really focus in on what is my theme for the day, what am I trying to figure out, what am I going to centralize my approach of the day around. Now, full transparency, if it's a weekday and I'm heading into work, I'll listen to audiobooks on the way in of the books that I'm reading physically. Sometimes that just helps give me a little bit more time, and I tend to drive into work or bike into work, so I'll have that playing in the background so I can pay attention to the continuation of the next thing that I want to read. And on the weekends, I will just pick up my book and continue on. So at some point in the morning, I will find 10, 15 minutes, and this is what I call a micro reading session, and I will pick up a nonfiction book that helps me to centralize around the theme again, or something that I want to learn. So my morning or the first half of the day is very much structured around nonfiction. One of the things that I am reading right now, which I'm very curious about, is the short history of the Roman Empire. I was at a barbecue recently, and someone mentioned when I was sharing this with her that she started laughing, and she said on social media, there's something about how, if you're wondering what a guy is thinking about, chances are he's thinking about the Roman Empire. She found it funny when I was sharing that I was reading up on the Roman Empire. Regardless, that's one of the things that I am learning about right now. I want to find a topic somewhere halfway through the morning that helps me to continue that learning aspect. And it's an area of interest or exploration. Early afternoon on the weekends, if I'm not out and about and doing other things, again, I'll find another 10, 15 minutes just to read a quick chapter or two in terms of a nonfiction book or the transition into a fiction book. I typically have two fiction books on the go, one that's a little bit sci-fi oriented and another one that is more general fiction. Right now, one of the things I'm reading is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I'm finding very amusing. It's an absolutely hilarious book. And a continuation of the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. So there are a few different things that I like to read, but the whole aspect of the afternoon transition into the evening is very much centered around kind of getting lost into a book and getting lost into perhaps a fantasy world. The last session of the day is probably right before bedtime or somewhere in the evening after the kids have gone to bed. I will find the opportunity to try and get another 20 or 30 minutes of reading in. So I guess that lends itself to maybe the next question that I got asked in the emails, which is, do I speed read? And I don't know that I do. I haven't taken anything formal with that. To be quite honest, I have seen snippets of how people speed read on from other YouTube channels and content creators out there. For me, I think I do read a little bit fast. However, I do try to make sure that when I read, I block off everything. And especially in the micro reading sessions, it's very much setting myself up in my reading corner and giving myself the 10 minutes of uninterrupted ability to read. The audiobooks are also a great supplement when I'm driving or biking, as I said, to work, or if I'm walking to and from the car. I tend to pop those on. This is assuming that I'm by myself, of course. And then the other thing that really helps with the reading sessions is having just a little bit of a routine and structure. So for me personally, that's, like I said, the 4 a.m. Not exactly at 4, it's typically around 5:15. And the other time is right before bed or while I'm in bed, reading for another 20 or 30 minutes. So I hope that answers some of the questions around my reading routine. I am happy to do a little bit more of a deeper dive or a bit more of a breakdown in terms of that. But in general, 4 or 5 books on a daily basis, longer reading session in the morning, longer reading session before bed, and then a bunch of micro reading throughout the day, mixed with audiobooks supplements. Where do I get my audiobooks? Because it's probably one of the things you're thinking about, which is what I was thinking about when I got into this, is I'm paying for a book or an ebook, and then am I also paying for an audiobook? Short answer is no to both, depending. I usually buy books, yes, on the Kindle or in paper format, which is my preference, or I borrow them from my local library here. But the other great opportunity or avenue for audiobooks, short of if you have a Spotify account, which allows you up to 15 hours, I think, of listening time every month, if you have a premium account, or Audible, which you have to pay for. Fantastically free option, if you have a library card, is Libby, the Libby app. This has thousands of audiobooks. Now, what I tend to do is when I borrow a book, I try to line it up with the audiobook borrowing on Libby, because Libby is a library effectively, so audiobooks may not be immediately available. You might have to put yourself down for a hold. But I try and time the two relatively close together. That way, when I'm reading a book and if I want to carry carry my reading session while I'm out and about or driving, I can easily listen to the audiobook and then flip back into reading. Out of the two formats, between reading a physical book and listening to an audiobook, I do really prefer reading a book. I feel like it engages my mind in a very different way, and it has a lot more intention and purpose behind it. Audiobooks, I do really enjoy, I really do. But, and I should say, if I am doing other things, sometimes I will forget to pay attention to the audiobook, and I might miss a couple of things while I'm listening to it, and I'll have to rewind and play it again. One of the benefits I find about audiobooks is the fact that I can play it at speed. Going back to the fact that I tend to read a little bit fast, normal speed on most audiobooks doesn't quite cut it for me. I will typically bump it up to a 1.5 time listening speed and above, anywhere up to almost a 2 in some books, depending on what the material is that I'm trying to listen to. So again, I hope that was helpful with respect to my reading routine and a little bit of what I do. Thanks very much for your questions around that. That was kind of fun to talk about. I've talked about it in bits and pieces here, and I think it's great just to be able to talk about it again. And if I can encourage anyone out there to get more reading done, I hope some of these suggestions might help with that. On my walk home the other day, I noticed yellow leaves on the ground, and this is the tail end of August, which was a bit startling to me because this summer felt like it went really fast. I don't know what it's been like for you, but for me personally, it went by tremendously fast, and it was filled with some chaos, I guess, both on the work front and the personal life. And that's life. It tends to happen. And in this case, summer really did feel very, very fast. So I guess I was a bit shocked to the core to see the presence of fall already. Shouldn't be surprised. It is Calgary being my city. Fall tends to happen pretty quickly, and we're heading into September, so it's going to be just a mad dash into cooler weather, which we're already experiencing. I guess I'm just openly reflecting on the fact that fall is around the corner. Interestingly enough, my favorite seasons, if you do care, if I were to rank my seasons from top to bottom, because I did get asked this question recently, I would say winter is probably my favorite, and only because I really enjoy the quiet and the solitude of winter. I do enjoy the cold. I do like to get out into the outdoors in winter. Things like snowshoeing and hiking and walking around. I love that. I really enjoy the slowing down of winter. And something that the next season that ties pretty closely to winter would be fall. I love fall. I love that progression of the energy shift that happens between the chaos of summer into slowing down of the winter. And you've got this beautiful transition period in nature of autumn or fall. And I just love partaking in that and getting, into pumpkin pies and pumpkin lattes and things like that. I love that cozy feel of autumn. I guess my third favorite is spring. The idea of transitioning out of winter and that renewal aspect of spring, I really am enjoying. I've always liked that. I just love the explosion that tends to happen in spring pretty quickly, as if just erupting from that slumber of winter. And then I guess, oddly enough, my least favorite season is summer. If I were to think about it from that perspective, don't get me wrong, I love being outdoors in the summer. I love hiking. I love being in nature. I love growing things in my garden in summer. And yet, summer for me always has this level of anxious, hyped up energy in my later years, I guess. I remember as a kid, it felt very slow, relaxing, and I really enjoyed it. But as I've gotten older, I have noticed that my summers are a lot more chaotic and less enjoyable for me. It's great to see from my kids' eyes and perspective of how they enjoy summer. And I would say for me, it's a lot of go, go, go. And even when I'm trying to slow down in summer, which I do find those moments, it still feels like there's just some frenetic energy in the air of everybody, and particularly in my city, I think, especially because summer really is only 2 months, where everybody's trying to do as much as they possibly can and really enjoy the sun and the weather. I like summer, but if I were to rank it from top to bottom, I would say summer falls in the bottom. So while it did shock me to see yellow leaves, I guess I also felt some relief about summer coming to a close and some excitement about hooking it up into the fall and into winter. And one more thing I should mention is that I did decide on my next pen purchase, which is the Pilot Custom 823. I had a chance to try the broad. I was debating about the new signature nib, and I have finally settled on just doing another medium in the Custom 823. I think in the future I will get another Custom 743, but pick it up in a FA nib version, which is the Falcon nib on it, to play around with the flex nib on it. A friend let me try his FA nib, and it was absolutely incredible. All my gripes about flex nibs are about how they're stiff. I'd only tried steel nibs before, steel flex nibs, but the Pilot flex nibs are just absolutely incredible. So I was very much intrigued, and I think that's going to be at least probably 2 pen purchases down the road. For now, I think, much like a lot of people out there who seem to be, at least in my immediate circle, I've decided that I'm probably going to abstain from buying anything other than one more pen in the near future, and just save up some cash in the stationery fund and perhaps buy the Diamine Inkvent 2024 Ink Advent Calendar. Thanks very much for joining me. Take care and have a wonderful day.